I'm Kristen Tetzi. I am a writer. I've done some journalism. Primarily, I'm interested in fiction, and whatever I write, I try to incorporate the child-free perspective or a character who can appreciate the child-free position. Most recently, I did that in The Age of the Child. It is a novel available everywhere, and in it, a repeal of Roe versus Wade has had some unforeseen consequences that take a surprising turn from one generation to the next.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I am the founder of The Uprising Spark, and I am a coach for child-free women like myself. So basically, some of us have really icky feelings sometimes about our choice, like guilt or anger. And I help women who have these feelings to sort of work through them and overcome them to live a very happy and fulfilled child-free life.
Hi, my name is Lenora Faye. I'm a child-free lifestyle advocate, speaker, and moderator. I'm a co-founder of the Childfree Convention, which is hosting the 2022 virtual Childfree Convention later on this year. And we are the three founding non-mothers of Childfree Girls. Today, we are talking about a variety of subjects, but before we get into that, Isabel has a very special announcement.
It's a special announcement. Well, I mean, Kristen calls it a commitment. Wait, what is it? A relationship
dog. It's a commitment dog.
Okay, I want to know what that is first before I introduce her, because it's either I introduce her or I just throw her out the window. Like right now.
Well, you two, when Ian and I first got together, when he came back from Iraq, we together got a kitten from the shelter. He was our cat. That meant that we were both responsible for this cat. And if we happened to break up, we would actually have to discuss who gets this cat. So when you combine caretaking of an animal, I think you are committing in a way just shy of a promise ring, which is just shy of an engagement ring, which may or may not lead to marriage.
Oh, which may or may not lead to divorce. Sorry, well, I just had to say. just throwing that out there.
Right. Well, that feels a little bit like what it is. And this is Kiwi.
Oh, hello.
Kiwi, say hi.
If you're listening to this and not watching it, Isabella's holding her little dog, her little commitment dog, Kiwi, up to the camera. And I can't describe Kiwi. Can you describe Kiwi?
She's an Italian Greyhound or an Iggy, and she's a little fireball. Like, she is so annoying. She's not housebroken. I love her so much, but sometimes I really feel like it's too much. Like, puppies can be too much. And so, my boyfriend, when we got together, he had a dog that he had rescued. He still has his dog. Her name is Ramona, and I had Euro. Everyone knows Euro. And then we decided to get this little rascal here. And this one actually attacks Ramona. She tries to play with Euro. She's just so out there, and Euro's like a grumpy old man, and he's like, don't fucking even touch me. Like, he's not having any of it, and he's been jealous of her. Ramona not so much, but Euro has been very jealous of her lately. And so it's been like his dog, my dog, our dog now, and this is her. And she's so cute, but she's so fucking annoying sometimes.
Do you guys consider yourself a family of 5 now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like we say, we have guardianship over 3 dogs, the 2 of us, right? So even though Euro was mine and he's been with me for over 8 years, and Ramona has been with him for months, but she's 4 years old or so. And now we have Kiwi, so it's the 3 of us actually take care of the 3. The 2 of us, me and my boyfriend, we take care of the 3 dogs. Yeah, so we are a family of 5 now.
And where does Kiwi live? Sorry.
Ooh, good question.
Kiwi lives, well, right now we're at my boyfriend's. She spends more time here than she does at my place.
Where do you spend more time?
Here. So it's usually I'm usually here with her too, or sometimes she goes to my place as well, but Euro doesn't like that because she takes over the bed. She pees on his bed and then goes to my bed, and he's I can't sleep in my bed. I can't sleep on your bed, Mom, because Kiwi's there. So where am I supposed to be sleeping? Right.
Yeah.
Are you a step parent, step dog mom to Ramona? How does that work in the pet world? Or, I mean, in the pet human situation?
Well, I don't consider myself a dog mom or a step dog mom or like
Okay.
that's not. I remember we had this
Okay.
conversation, there's this episode for anyone who's watching or listening that we I think it's called like pets are they like kids or something.
Pets versus kids. Yeah.
Pets
What's
versus
the difference? Yeah.
exactly. So at that time I only had Euro and I was wearing this t-shirt that said dog mom. And I was wearing it ironically because I actually don't like the term dog mom. If you want to call yourself a dog mom, that's perfect. Good for you.
Mhm.
That's not for me. Like that's not who I am. So I'm not really Ramona's step anything.
Okay.
I'm like, people ask me, I'm like, yeah, I have 3 dogs. Like, yeah, one of them came with my boyfriend. So it was it was like
So
two for
who did you fall in
one.
love with first? Who did you fall in love with first? The dog or the boyfriend?
No, the boyfriend, because when I
Okay.
met him, she wasn't in his life yet. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
met him and he adopted her, I think maybe 2 months later. We were
Okay.
not like in an official relationship at the time when he adopted her. And he had been talking to me about wanting to adopt a dog. So he came first. And especially he's had to be like super patient with her because I don't know, this might be your case too, Kristen. Rescue dogs are, I mean, you never know what you get, right? It's like lottery
Yeah.
and having a rescue dog, especially an adult rescue dog, like you don't know what kind of traumas this dog comes with, like what happened to this dog before. So they're scared of things that you're like, you never know what it is exactly. They're picky about food. For example, Ramona, she used to eat because she lived in the streets, like she used to eat scraps. Like and so getting her to eat like dog nibble was such a challenge and things like that. So I just want to know what your experience was with Lenny.
Lenny ate fine, but she would not walk. She just wouldn't go for walks. And I would finally get her walking down the sidewalk, maybe 20 feet, and then somebody would open their house door or slam a car door, and she would just freeze to walk anymore. So she was afraid of noises. And I think the only history I have on her is that she was out wandering. I don't think she was mistreated by anyone. If anything, she was just but if anything, she was abandoned or born astray. I don't know, but I think she knew how to sit because one of the first times we took her to a dog park, someone told their dog in a very commanding tone, "Sit," and Lenny sat. So she had learned at least one command, but I don't think she didn't know what toys were.
Was she
And
housebroken?
she was housebroken. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And she
okay.
had been spayed. So I don't know if someone had cared for her for a while and then given up on her. I don't know what, but she was challenging. I mean, not challenging some people have really challenging rescue dogs, like dogs who are seriously scared of everything. And you have to be so patient and gentle and cautious around them because they've been through some serious trauma. I don't think that was the case with her. She had some fears, but, with a lot of patience, she got over them. I'm not a patient person.
This sounds like dating. Like you have to train people and you don't know what their past
No, you
traumas are.
don't train
And it's just
people.
exhausting. And it's like, oh, this is a lot. And they're skittish when you slam car doors.
I always talk to my boyfriend about the carrot and the stick, right? When you're training dogs, because that was my experience with Euro. So it was either the carrot or the stick. Like he knew that if he did what I wanted him to do, I would give him a treat, like without fault. But if he didn't, then there was the stick. And it's funny because I was talking to a friend and she was like, that's the exact same thing somebody told me about my boyfriend. Like it's the carrot and the stick, right? When you're
See?
The carrot and the stick. Like I've never done that with people. Honestly, I feel, it works with dogs because you're trying to like train them into certain behaviors or like train something, like help them, I don't know, overcome their...
Yeah, it's discipline. I mean, I think they do well with a certain amount of order and routine and
Who,
discipline.
men or dogs? Who are we talking about now? I'm really
You see,
confused.
you're just as bad as a sexist man who like talks about how you need to get women to know that they belong in the kitchen making sandwiches. I mean, your dog is trying to get out.
It's really funny.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I'm gonna let her out. You carry on. I'll let her out.
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna ask Isabel, doesn't she like, haven't you ever rewarded somebody with sex for them doing a good job? Like,
I know. Have you?
No.
No. Okay. I'm not, well, if you both say no, I'm not gonna say yes.
If they're a grown up, they do it, whatever it is, because they're a grown up and they're responsible, not because they're going to get a sex treat.
I know. That sounds weird. I have,
Oh, it's
okay. That said, I have to admit that I have taken sex out of the table, not as punishment, but sort of like, I don't like you right now, therefore it's not on the...
well, that makes sense though. That's just natural. That's like, we are not in a place where I want to have sex with you right now. So absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
I mean-
so it's more like that. If you are in a mood and they've done whatever, and not because you said, I'm going to give you sex for if you do this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like they get rewarded for good behavior.
No.
Okay.
God, no.
It does
Not
happen.
if you want to date a mature adult human being who you
I
can
think that's
respect.
the
No.
problem. I think that's the problem because, and it wasn't even a dating situation. So, okay. All right. We have to talk about this more though, because I'm okay.
So
I'm sure somebody out there knows what I'm talking about, but we'll see what the responses are.
giving men sex as a treat, like...
Well, it's not just men,
You know,
like
whoever
just
has a
Hey,
partner.
right?
Like a carrot, like...
Yeah, exactly. Or even
Doesn't
phrasing
that
it like,
make you? Doesn't that make them inferior to you automatically? Doesn't that make you the well, basically the string dangler in the relationship? And then how
Well,
fun would that be? Like, is that even a relationship then?
no, but in a sense though, like that scenario makes me wonder because I'm gonna kind of pigeonhole men in this, but it really can go to any gender, but people are on their best behavior when they want something from you. So when you're courting, when you're dating, when you are getting to know each other, they're going to do a lot of things because they want sex. There's a little thing at play there. It's not just blatantly as like, I'm going to withhold until you do X, Y, and Z. Although that does happen because if you think of like practice abstinence until you get married, you're dangling sex in front of someone until they agree to marry you.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the whole problem with no sex before marriage.
Religion teaches you that because I grew up like you can't have sex before marriage. So what are you doing? You're dangling the sex carrot in front of somebody until they marry you. That's what the Bible teaches, which actually segues quite into what?
I was gonna say, like, why are we talking about what like religion says? And then I'm like, oh, right.
Right, we're going somewhere with it. So I'm sure by now everybody is familiar, but just in case you are not familiar with the glorious Pope and his brilliant comments, I'm just going to read something quick. So just to set the tone for this part of the conversation, because this is perfectly, I mean, this can be directed at Kristen and Isabel because I don't have pets. Sorry. So the Pope says, and this is the English translation here, we see that people do not want to have children or just one or no more. And many, many couples do not have children because they do not want to, or they have just one, but they have 2 dogs, 2 cats. Yes, cats and dogs take the place of children. Yes, it's funny, I understand, but it is a reality. And this denial of fatherhood or motherhood diminishes us. It takes away our humanity. That's a quote from the current Pope. So
I was not surprised that like it was a shitstorm after that. Like he said that, and like
I was like,
everyone that like not only like in the child-free space, just in general, like media was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I think I saw an article that came out today, and I think it was in a Canadian newspaper, and it basically says that the Pope didn't actually only insult people who don't want children, but he also insulted people who have children. Like he's just not doing,
If they only have one.
if they only
Yeah.
have one, or if they have one and then two dogs, or if they have 2 and 3 dogs, 5 rabbits and 5 horses, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, like I don't understand, like, this is the thing though, there was a lot of thoughts around this, a lot of opinions, people just went insane, ballistic all over the place on social media. And I got a comment from somebody on one of my posts about this specific subject saying, you're not getting it. Like he's talking about adoption. He's not talking about actually having children. He's talking about adoption. She kept going on about that. And I remember thinking, well, we're child free. We don't even want to adopt. Like
Mhm.
it's still, the point is the same, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because why would, I don't understand why someone who is religious, who has chosen God, who has chosen that calling, would be so self-righteous about something that they don't even have, like they haven't even experienced, right? Even though this Pope, I think he became part of the clergy when he was like really old. I don't know his story very well. I do remember reading somewhere that he was like a bouncer at a bar in Buenos Aires or something. Yeah, I know this is a true story. Like the guy, before he
Huh.
became a clergy or clergyman, he was like a regular person. So does he have, I don't
Why
think,
doesn't he have a kid?
exactly. Well, that's one thing. But the other thing is people are like, oh, this man, the 78-year-old virgin with no kids. I don't think he's a virgin, to be honest, if he was a bouncer. But that's not the point. The point is he doesn't have children. He chose not to raise children. He chose not to have children. He devoted his life to God. And that's perfectly okay, but it's not okay for other people to choose something different. So that's just hypocritical, honestly.
He says that after the Britannica says that after studying in high school to become a chemical technician, he worked briefly in the food processing industry, but felt called to the church. When he was about 21, he suffered a severe bout of pneumonia that led to the removal of part of his right lung, and he entered the Jesuit novitiate in 1958, and then turned to academics. He taught literature and psychology. Interesting. He was ordained as a priest in 1969. When was he born? Born in 1936.
So he was
So-
almost 30 years old when he got ordained as a priest.
Yeah.
So he's had time to have some fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like he had much fun because he entered the Jesuit novitiate, and I don't know what that is, and I really hope I'm saying it right. So that doesn't sound like a very sexy sort of environment.
Yeah, I know, but you get pent up, like, oh, how do I phrase this? Things happen.
Sexually frustrated.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I think there was a point made somewhere, and I don't know if it was on your page, Isabel, but I thought it was like people choose many things that may or may not include children. The three of us, like other child-free people, have chosen things that don't involve children, as the Pope did. So you would think he would understand it better.
Right.
And if I read his statement, at least as it was translated and probably maybe taken out of context, he was talking about both having your own children and or adopting children, neither of which he did.
That's right. And actually, I want to quote another child-free account that had made this post, and it made me laugh. Live Kid Free says, Pope Francis is child-free. I imagine he made this choice because he wanted to focus on other things he felt were more important, more fulfilling, and more aligned with his true calling, just like us. I just thought that was so
Exactly.
good. It's so true. I'm really curious what the literal translation is of his statements because it wasn't done in English.
Yeah.
There is a lot of things, that get either badly translated or that get said, like get taken out of context. I remember, like, this was maybe, I don't remember exactly what year, but it was over 5 years ago. Somewhere, someone published in one really big newspaper that this Pope had told a child that all pets go to heaven. Because this child had come up to him, mourning the death of his dog. And then the Pope was like, don't worry, son, all pets go to heaven. They made a big fuss about it as well. And then I was reading after this whole thing about that specific moment, and it didn't happen. Like that never happened. Like he never
Oh, wow.
said that pets go to heaven. There was never an audience with a kid who had just lost his dog. I don't know. That got completely taken out of context. I don't know exactly what context to say, that he had said that, because we do know that the last Pope was really anti-pet. Benedict, what's his name? The German guy, Pope Benedict.
Pope Benedict. Okay.
He was really anti-animal, anti-pet. Like he was very, very adamant. Like,
And he was child free.
yeah, yeah. But this Pope, what I found also very interesting when I was looking for information is, he actually took his name to honor Saint Francis of Assisi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Saint Francis of Assisi is like the patron of animals and the environment. So it's a little bit ironic, to say the least, that you're not giving animals and environment a place, an important place in your speech, when that's the person that you're trying to sort of channel, I guess. I don't know how that works, but yeah.
For me, it's when people, popes or otherwise, when people come out against the child-free choice, to me, it's like there's so much they don't understand. It's coming from a place of like they don't understand what it's like to live child-free. They have not taken the time to maybe speak with a child-free person to get a better understanding of why we made the choices that we make. And this is why, speaking up and sharing your own stories, and it's, again, not to convince them that you're right and they're wrong. It's just that people have these blanket assumptions of why people choose to not have kids. They don't take into consideration that there is a lot of thought behind it. Generally speaking, there are valid reasons behind it. And also too, that they just can't fathom that not everybody wants to have kids, and then think that why that's not selfish, why that's actually not a problem, but they're making it a problem. So it's just being completely unaware. But at the same time, if this is coming from a religious standpoint, that makes sense, because you're not supposed to be thinking outside the box when you're in religion. I mean, they don't promote that. They don't like you doubting things. They don't like you questioning things. They want you just to live exactly how, whatever rules, whatever religious organization you're involved with, they want you to live by the rules that are laid out. So, I don't expect them to do any soul searching or to ask another person, so why have you chosen to not have kids? And as in, they actually want to understand better. That's not something that's generally encouraged. So I'm not surprised, but it's frustrating, because there's more to the story than there's more to the story. Like, even if you just simply don't want to have kids, there's more to say about that, and it's not necessarily a conversation that is supported in general society
or in the child-free community, because how many
Yeah.
child-free people have you heard say, don't ask me why I don't want kids, that's none of your fucking business, go fuck yourself, fucker. That's what they say.
Yeah. So it does. Yeah, exactly. It's not the most inviting way. Well, I mean, that's the point, but that's also the point, is that, to me, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I posted about this, is like, when someone says, whoever, regardless of who says it, when someone says it's none of my business, it's none of your business, to me, that's like, shut up, let's not talk about this. And to me, that's silencing everything. Like, yeah, it is no one's business whether I reproduce or not, but I don't want to be silenced. I can't just say, like, it's none of your business and shut down. Like, there's a conversation that's necessary, which is why we exist. And we, meaning Childfree Girls, and other things. But to me, I'm starting to interpret as, when anybody says it's none of their business, that's just a shutdown of the conversation entirely. And that actually worries me a bit, because I know not everybody wants to speak out about why they're child free. They don't want to talk about it. That's fair. I don't want anyone to ever feel pressure to do so. But at the same time, I feel like it's none of your business shuts down awareness of the fact that there is a choice. And that does bother me.
I think it's a
It
personal.
bothers me. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's just really personal. Some people don't like to talk about it. Some people don't want to talk about it. Some people talk about it sometimes, and sometimes they are not in the mood to talk about it.
Mhm.
And like I totally see that. I respect it as well. What I do feel that when there is somebody that has like such a high profile, like such a high profile person, like the Pope, who comes out and says something like what he said, I do find very comforting that there's so many people that speak up against that, because
Mhm.
this man is followed by literally millions of people around the world, right? And the thing is, we cannot say that Catholicism is like a monolithic thing. Like within Catholicism, there's several currents. There's people like some, I don't know how do you call them, houses. I don't know. There's
I was
just
gonna say, is this like House Baratheon or something?
house
Like,
they're like, I don't know. It's just like, for me, religion is just so freaking old that all I can think of is just like like the Middle Ages. But what I'm saying is, there are some currents, I would say, of Catholicism that are a little bit more progressive than others.
Mm.
But the Pope sort of like represents everyone in Catholicism, which is weird. It's like having the president of the world in a way. Like there's millions of people who listen to what he says, millions of people who follow this man, millions of people who pay attention to what he says. And that I find infuriating, that having such a big and of course big platform that is also very, that you can have all this reach and that you can actually do good things with it. And then
Mhm.
that happens. But what I loved was all these people saying, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's not cool. And I'm not only talking about childhood people, I'm also talking about parents who came out and said, that's not okay. It's not
Yeah.
cool to say that. So
Because to your point, it's not just people who are Catholics that follow him. It's the fact that press everywhere will repeat what he said. Like they will, if he says something, it's printed, it's on record, and so, I don't follow him, but I'm aware of what he said because it's just, everywhere. So he's someone that's like, he's one of the most famous people in the world, whether you're a Catholic or not. Yeah, it is concerning. And to your point, you being happy that so many people spoke up in defense of people that don't have kids or choose to have pets. To me, it did excite me, the fact that, hey, people who probably didn't even say, like, would never talk about not having kids, some of those people are speaking up, because they're just like, that's kind of like the boiler point. It's like, wait a second, I chose not to have kids. I've never talked about this before, but this is ridiculous. And so it's stirring people up, I think, in a way that does benefit the child-free community or the child-free conversation, because it's making people want to stand up for themselves, which is always a good thing, like, in the context of the child-free community, because as we all know, more people that speak up, the more we realize none of us are alone in this, and more people are there that we can actually resonate with one another, instead of feeling like we're just kind of navigating through life as the only child-free person on your block. So, there are, in a way, it's good. It's good that it's stirred things up, but I mean, there's pros and cons to it. I'll put it that way.
That made me think of something really quick on the Facebook page on Best Child Free Life Ever, Jared's
Possible.
Best Child Free Life Possible. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
He asked who people's favorite child-free influencers are. And I don't think I must not know what influencers are, because someone said, like someone mentioned us, someone mentioned other podcasts or whatever. And then someone was like, I just go to Reddit. I don't like influencers. And I was like, we're not influencers. We're just like having a conversation. We're not influencers, right? Because I don't want to be an influencer. I just want us to have conversations like any kind of radio show, podcast, whatever. Mm-hmm. So if anyone out there thinks we're trying to influence you to do anything except embrace yourself,
which Kristen,
please know we're not.
That goes against your inspo over thing.
Yeah, but I was being facetious.
Okay.
Oh, the thing that was like the whole thing about pets replacing kids really annoys me. This idea that if you have pets, it's some kind of child substitute, or as if one has anything to do with the other. And our account today tweeted that, and I agree with this.
Oh, good.
That.
I think it's a great thing that you agree with to something that you tweeted. But yeah.
Have we ever posted something we don't agree with?
That's great.
that we together totally get it when some child-free people, and you might agree with this too, Lenora, that there's perspective that if you're going to be child-free, why have pets? Because it's just it's a responsibility that I think a lot of child-free people don't want. One of the reasons they don't have kids is they don't want to be anchored to anything. They don't want to be, you don't want to have to say, no, I can't go this weekend because I have my dog or I have my cats and I can't find basically a sitter. So I totally get that. Like I completely understand and empathize with that position. It's a pain in the ass to have that anchor sometimes. Yet to call like this idea that, and this, I'm not saying you're saying this, Lenore, or that you agree with this, it's just the whole Pope thing. This idea of pets being child substitutes is both, I think it's said intending to be demeaning in a way, and I don't quite know how, but it feels like an insult.
People are responding to it as an insult for sure.
Responding to it?
Yeah, even if he was saying it as a joke, because I saw somewhere where they're like, well, maybe he was joking, but people are responding it as an insult. Sorry, but they are taking it as an insult, regardless of how you intended it.
Well, it is insulting, honestly. And I had this conversation, I think I told you girls, it was this week or last week in in Lenora's Childfree morning chat. Someone who's child-free was like, sort of saying, oh, child-free people who have pets are replacing kids for pets. Oh my God. I had, it took everything inside of me for me to be very diplomatic, because I was like, no. And I'm being very, very polite. No.
There was a lot of that. I could feel.
I was tense. I was like, what are you saying? Like,
I had to pull out my moderating skills to be on edge just in case someone was going to go to battle, because between you and Childfree Sister, I was like, oh boy. All right.
Yeah, I know. But we kept it.
It was good.
We kept it very, very civil, and like the tone was,
it was a good conversation.
I don't agree with you, but this is my point of view, and I get it, I understand. But she said something, speaking about Childfree Sister, she said something that I loved. I don't know if Kristen, you're aware of this at some point, because you weren't there that day, but maybe Laura mentioned it, I don't know. But she said, I'm as free as I want to be.
Yeah.
For people saying like, oh, if you're not really child-free if you have a pet because you still have responsibilities. Well, yeah, you have responsibilities, but you cannot compare, and I cannot stress this enough, you cannot compare the responsibilities of having one dog, let alone 3 in my case, to responsibilities of having one child. Like, that's not the same thing at all. Like, there's no point of comparison. I can leave my dogs at a doggy hotel and I can go away for a week. If I do that with a child, I will get taken to jail probably. So, it's a whole different thing. And the thing is, and she said it, she was like, I'm as free as I want to be. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's exactly it. And people can choose whatever that means to them. You don't have to be like completely untethered to anything at all to be like, to call yourself child-free. Like, Lenora wouldn't have any plans. Kristen wouldn't have.
I kill them every 5 years, I mean, it's kind of like,
you have plans.
I do. A lot of them.
You wouldn't have relationship with people and if that's your jam, awesome. If that's what you like, not having any type of relationship, romantic or otherwise, not having plants or dogs or pets or gerbils, I don't know. That's awesome. But if some of us choose to have pets, first of all, that doesn't mean that we're not free. And secondly, we're not replacing children or pets, like that drives me insane, especially when it comes from a childhood person. It just fucks me up.
It's still, because it's still kind of, it still places kids as the default. I don't know. The only way I can think of to make it as ridiculous as it is to say like pets are a pasta replacement. Why do I need a pasta replacement? And why would I, you know what I mean? I mean, it just presupposes that kids should be there, and because they're not, something else is there instead.
Yeah, that's totally it. And I said, like, to the conversation that we were having in morning chat, where it was, you know, people were debating, okay, child free, pet free, child free with pets. I said, you know, I choose not to have pets. I'm not interested. I choose not to have kids. I'm not interested, but I have businesses. Like, I love business. That morning chat is an example of why I wake up in the morning. So my level of freedom, I am as free as I want to be, but to me, I look at something like business that gives me the joy that people with pets have. And, you know, there's a phrase that has always annoyed me since I've heard it. It's like, you know, on your deathbed, you'll wish you spent more time at home with the family than being at the office. And I'm like, I love my home office. I want to be in here creating things, collaborating with people for as long as I possibly can. Like, there's just that assumption, and to what you said, Kristen, that children are like, it's expected, like anything else that's not a child that gives you meaning is a replacement for a child, which is so, yeah, absolute crap. And that is something, you know, I mean, that's pronatalism in a nutshell, like that we're going to be battling forever, it seems like, because anything that brings you joy, and that does require, because anything that we enjoy doing requires sacrifice. Like, Kristen, you writing, that requires a sacrifice of time for you, but to you, you may not think of it as a sacrifice because you're doing something you love, right?
It's a choice. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, whatever we're interested in and that we enjoy doing, like, the bottom line is, if it's not a kid, I hate that it's put as second tier to everything else. Like, everything is put second tier to raising children, because it's just, I mean, there would be way more happier people on this planet if children were truly the most joyful experience. Like, if parenthood was truly the most joyful experience, there would be so many more happy people out there than what they are.
Yeah, I actually have a comment regarding that. That's like the perfect segue, because I wanted to tell this to somebody, and I was like, how do I put it? But this is perfect. I had a session 0 last week with a guy, actually, who's like on the fence. Yeah, and so he was talking about, he was like, I want you to like coach me or my girlfriend partner. They're not married, but they're like totally in love with each other. Or like just sort of like, we were talking about it, and then they're on the fence still, but I think they're leaning more towards they don't want to have children. So he was like, I've read, you know, these books, and he sort of named a few books of about the child free choice that we all know. Very good books. And he said, and you know what? I was actually looking for, because I want to like have both points of view. So I'm like reading all these books about child freedom, and I wanted to read a book about the joys of parenthood. There's not a single book out there about the joys of parenthood.
Oh, wow.
He said to me, I'm like super, like, he's that kind of person who's like super methodical. Like, you know, he wants to read a book about the joys of parenthood, and there's nothing out there.
Should we write one? Sorry. It might be very short.
Yeah, this is the thing. So he said, I found a lot of books about parenting, like how to, you know,
survive it.
Yeah. how not to kill your toddler, how to, you know, how to feed a baby, I don't know, breastfeeding or whatever. All these books that come out, but there's nothing about parenthood is the best thing in the world. I'm so joyful, period. You know, like, and I remember this this article that also came out, I think it was maybe a couple of months ago. We actually had a discussion about this article. I don't remember if it was done in one of our episodes or if we did it in our chat. It was in the Atlantic. Yeah, the Atlantic. So this guy that says, you know, yes, parenthood is like really hard. And yes, there are studies that say that people who don't have children are happier. And like, yes, we wake up and it's like this responsibility. And sometimes we just don't want to see our children. And sometimes like, but it all works out because children give people's lives meaning and, fulfillment, and we have more meaningful lives, basically, which is totally subjective, right? So I thought that was very interesting, and I wanted to share that here too.
The trade-off of suffering equals meaning. That's how I hear it always, and again, I know people who I can't say they enjoy parenthood, but I mean they chose to be parents, and they all said they could. I don't know, maybe I can't even use that example because nobody goes any further than, but it brings so much meaning to my life, and that's it. They never expand on it further, so I can't even use that as an example.
And that's fine. Like if that brings meaning to your life, that's okay. But it doesn't mean that it's going to bring meaning to everyone's life.
Right.
That's the one thing that I'm like, why do you want everyone else to like feel the same way that you do? Like, it's like saying if somebody says, "Oh, I love chocolate chip ice cream," like everyone then loves chocolate. Like that's not how the world works, right? There are
I don't
people
love chocolate chip ice cream.
Exactly. There are people out there who don't like chocolate, period.
Yeah.
Crazy weirdos who don't like chocolate.
Hey, I said chocolate chip ice cream. I like chocolate, just not an ice cream.
How do you not like chocolate chip ice cream? That is the best of all ice creams.
Because chewing the chocolate that's already cold is hard on my teeth, and I don't like that. I've already spent a lot of money on dental, and it's uncomfortable, and it's like chalky. And no, although, wait a second, I'm kind of contradicting. I like chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. That's different. Anyway, we're getting off topic. I want ice cream.
But talking about meaning, and this is something, I don't know if you girls saw this article that came out after Betty White's death. For those of you who don't know, who are listening or watching us, Betty White was a very big advocate for animal rights and just animals in general. Like she loved animals. She was child free. She passed away, I think it wasn't the 31st of December, right? Right before
New Year's Eve. Yeah.
She passed away. She was shy of 100 years old. She was turning out. It was on the 16th of January or 17th.
17th. Yeah.
Okay. So she was days shy of 100 years old. And this lady married somebody who had children from a previous marriage. So she was in essence a stepmother of her husband's children. And this husband happened to be the love of her life. But she always talked about how she chose not to have children. She always talked about how she wanted to focus on her career. She wanted to focus on, helping animals and her pets and whatnot. And there's this article that came out, and I cannot remember for the life of me what the source was, but it was like Betty White, like Hollywood's favorite grandma. Like, why? Yeah. Why do you have to put a label on women like mother or grandmother? Like she wasn't, yes, she was a stepmother, but she wasn't
but that wasn't her identity. That was not her identity at all.
No, she always said, even when she was in her later years, she said, I chose not to have children. I chose, I didn't want that responsibility. I didn't want to be a mother. And they're like, oh, like Hollywood's favorite grandmother. Like, no. Those are her stepkids' children, I guess. But
it's everyone. I mean, so Salon, remembering Betty White, America's grandmother and the first lady of whatever. Washington Post, goodbye to Betty White, popular culture's beloved and saucy great grandma now.
Jeez.
See, so the fact that women's identity is so closely attached to that of being a mother, a grandmother, or great grandmother, and also, seeing women who choose not to step into those roles, but then have pets or have plants, and then calling them a dog mom or a plant mom. Like, why is the world so insanely obsessed with calling women mothers?
Yeah. Because, I mean, no one's, the attempt to change that narrative, I mean, it's a uphill battle, because that's been from day one, the whole, I can't even find the words. I'm so frustrated. But that's been the narrative, and to buck that, I mean, we now live in a time where we can actually speak out against that that narrative where anyone who has attempted, let's say 50 to 100 years ago, let's say, because 50 years ago really isn't that long ago now. Like I have to think in my head, like, oh God, you know, there were serious repercussions, but now we, you know, here living where we live, we have a little more freedom. It was nice to see some articles coming out or speaking out against that label of America's grandmother, because there were some I saw floating around saying like, why are we giving her that label? You know, she chose not to have children. When I saw the Entertainment Tonight tribute to Betty White, it was so nice. They did a segment of her saying like she did not have children. And they played that clip of her with Katie Couric saying, you know, how she does not regret having children. And there was a Netflix documentary from 2018 that has just left Netflix, unfortunately. But it was Betty White, the first lady in television. And oh my gosh, it was so insightful. And it ends with her. You may have seen photos of her with a big grizzly bear at the Los Angeles Zoo or something. And the bear just loves her. And she's so happy. She's feeding it marshmallows. I mean, like, you have never seen somebody so enamored, like just like her love of animals. I mean, she's like this big, and she's like with this giant bear, and you're just like, you can tell she lived her life doing what she wanted to. And it happens to go against the traditional narrative of like, you know, housewife and mother. And she was married 3 times, and her second, I believe it was her second husband, she divorced because she didn't want to have kids. And like her first marriage, I think only lasted a year. And like it wasn't just career. It was just like she had other passions and interests. Right. So, you know, I mean, you talk about like making like that day the news broke that she passed, like, again, Twitter, it was one of the few times that Twitter could actually agree on something that, oh my God, we've lost Betty White. Like, I'm not just talking about Childfree people, like everybody was mourning that, but also too, just the impact, like every Childfree account was talking, or people were talking about it. You know, like we lost a Childfree icon, like someone that people really looked to as someone who actually had spoken out about not having kids, lived a very prolific and life that was well respected, well loved, and again proves that you don't need to have kids to leave a lasting legacy. So screw you, anyone that's like saying we have no legacy. It's possible.
And we may not have a legacy.
Too.
Everyone can't possibly have a legacy, and having kids doesn't automatically give you a legacy either.
Well, wait a second. That's not true. Your legacy just might not be as well known, because to a certain select few, everyone's going to have an impact on somebody. I think we get confused with like legacy of like a big thing. Like if let's say you had like one family member and one friend left when you die, and that's all that ever who knew you, but I'm, you know, maybe you had an assistant or went to the grocery store or something. If you were even if you were mean to them or if you were kind to them, they will still go, oh, I remember that person.
Legacy is a big word for that, though.
Pardon?
I get what you're saying, and I totally agree. I really do. I think if you can even impact one person in a good way, and that in some way goes on to someone else, I totally agree. That's a major deal. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a legacy. Like when people talk about legacy, they're talking about something bigger, like Oprah, Betty White, you know. Right, but face it, most of us are ordinary. We're going to be forgotten. No one's going to care when we die. But and we're all going to die, and the world's going to explode. So it doesn't matter anyway.
Whose fault is that legacy has been considered a big thing? Because I think that's wrong. It's like the label of mother. Like legacy shouldn't mean a big.
If legacy were as simple, like if people thought of legacy just in general terms as something as small as influencing one person by being kind to them, you know, influencing something about how they go about their day even, or just, you know, changing the last 5 minutes of their life because they were in a bad mood and you were super sweet to them and said, I love your sweater or whatever.
Yeah.
If that were all it took, people wouldn't talk about leaving, like, what's your legacy going to be if you don't have kids? Because if they can't say, I like your sweater, and it's going to take popping out a kid for them to leave a legacy, that's pretty sad. You know what I mean?
And to me, leaving that is not because it's so common to have children. How is that a legacy? That's how I view it. I'm
exactly.
Like, well, okay. All right. I agree with you there. Can we post that on Twitter since we agree with it?
The suggestion I think when people talk, and maybe because of what she said herself, she said she wanted to focus on her career, she wanted to do other things. What people will too often turn that into is she sacrificed having children to have this career, as if that's the choice, as if a sacrifice were made, and sacrifice is also a word that's heavily overused. Like however much energy I put into writing, however traumatizing it can be, and I'm kidding, but seriously, it's a pain in the butt sometimes. None of that is sacrifice. That is simply kind of the cost of doing whatever. Parents who choose to have kids and who then have to save a lot of money or who don't get a lot of sleep, that's not sacrifice. That is a choice you made, and that's part of the job. So there are no heroes really in a lot of places where we want to assign heroic actions.
Well, that is it for this episode. Thank you very much for sticking with us. You can find us on our website, childfreegirls.com. You can also send us an email with your questions, comments, concerns, episode suggestions to childfreegirls@gmail.com.
Don't forget to subscribe. You're watching this on YouTube. There's a little button down there with Lucille. Just find it, click on it. And if you're listening to us on podcast, go over to YouTube and click subscribe. That really helps. You can also find us all over social media, most active, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are on Child Free Club on Clubhouse as well. If you want to join, just come along. Say that Childfree Girls sent you over and we'll let you in the club. We have conversations 7 days a week. What else?
Amazon.
Find us on social media at Childfree Girls, of course.
Yes.
And we're also on Amazon. We have a book called Childfree Girls, Comfort Food for Thought right behind Lenora. You can also buy it on Kindle or paperback.
The question for you today is, what do you think of people who call pets child replacements? And, or if that's not a question you want to answer, another pet related question is, what is your opinion of the perspective that if you have pets, you're not really 100% free and therefore you're not really child free because you have pets? I think that's how it goes. So, if you want to comment on that, leave it below. You can also email us if you want to be super duper private about it. I'm sure it can, in some ways, be a personal question. And that is it. Thank you for listening or watching, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. No, you say bye.
No, you say bye.
Oh my God, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
You leave first.
I'm going.
Bye.
Bye.